stop making original Roblox games. Now, before we get into what might be a bit of a hot take, a bit of a controversial topic, I must kind of reiterate and say stop making original Roblox games as your first project. In my opinion, your first couple projects or games should be kind of proven concepts and a bit cash grabby if I have to be completely real. If your first game is completely original in a non-proven concept, well, it could completely flop and then you're not going to want to be a developer anymore. And it's also just real demotivating working on something that nobody has done before and then it flopping. So without further ado, let's get into the pros and the cons of making an original Roblox game. Let's start off with the pros of making something completely original. Not exactly like the map I'm showing now. That is a little bit more like it. Now, no shade to the previous map I showed you guys. In fact, I built that for another developer who was following the advice of this video, not making an original game as one of their first few projects. Now, there are a few pros of making a completely original Roblox game. However, I would say there's definitely more cons than pros. The first plus side of making a completely original game is you will be proud of yourself, guys. This is something that's kind of slept on, I would have to say. Like, I have made plenty of Roblox games, and I don't think I've ever quite been, well, exactly proud of what I produced. However, this game I've been working on now, there's nothing that makes me happier than the thought of this game coming out someday, and maybe it'll just do all right in the platform. So number one pro is being proud of yourself and just accomplishing something that you might not have thought you were able to do. Or maybe you thought it wasn't even possible since it's never been done. The number two pro of making an original game is you are probably following passion instead of profit. Once again, this is something you do after you make the profit. This is my quote-unquote dream game, combining my two passions, being motorcycle stunting and then game development, of course. And I've probably made 20 or more simulator sort of cash grab type games before I was able to make this one. Bigger projects like this require so much funding and honestly just so much time. So I would say after you get done following the profits, you're not going to be exactly happy, but at least you'll have the money to make yourself happy when you make an actual game. The next pro, guys, is credit from other developers, man. If you ever want to grow in the dev space, which I honestly am more hated than loved, I think, in the dev space, because I'm not the best builder in the world, but I have like a decent little fan base over here. And some people get a little upset at that. But if you want to grow in the dev space, having an original body of work is so nice. If I see a post of somebody making, I don't know, a supercar drifting game with rocket boosters and bunny ears, you know, I don't know, just making stuff up here, but an original concept, I am way more likely to hit them up, share their posts, and just support the development of it, because it is so cool seeing original stuff on this platform. On the flip note of that, if I see somebody posting or asking me to play their new game called Clicker Simulator 95,343, well, I'm not really gonna feel too inclined to play it, if I'm being honest. However, respect for getting the bag. The last pro before we dive into these cons is, guys, with a fully original concept, it has a slim chance of actually popping off. If no one's ever done it before, there's, well, two reasons. One reason, nobody cares and there's no market for it. That's the bad reason. But the good reason is maybe nobody's thought of it yet and you're the first one to do it and there's a huge market for it. This also does flip us into the cons, so I guess we'll get started on those now. I'd have to say the number one con really correlates. There's kind of a 50-50 shot of your game becoming extremely dead and a super waste of time, and a source of your horrible new demotivation you found, or it absolutely blowing up out of proportion, maybe the best new game on Roblox, the most players on the platform. You really never know until it gets released. You could spend 1 month or 5 years making a project that's perfect for you and your team, something that really chases whatever you envisioned, and at the end of the day, it could get no players. But on the pros, on the flip, it could get thousands and tens of thousands, guys. I would say it's definitely worth it, but once again, not a good way to do your first project. I've been working on this game for a little over a year now, I believe. And if it flops, it is gonna hurt. But at least I can kind of go back to the drawing board, I guess, making those beautiful Clicker Simulator 95,349 again. X. But guys, don't start something too big that's just gonna demotivate you. That might not make you any profit in the long run anyways. Another con is the amount of time spent. With making an original or unique game, there's not really a blueprint to follow. There's not any bit of a gameplay loop you can finesse from another game. For example, every simulator that's like Pet Simulator, well, there you go. You collect pets, you click on something, the pets go to that something, and then you get coins. When it comes to an original project, you can't really copy anybody's build because it's a new game, a new style of game at that. You can't really copy a simulator aspect if you're making a GTA game. There's always roleplay games and stuff like that when it comes to this open world stuff, but when you're making something completely original, expect your normal development time plus maybe 2 more normal development times. There's so much things to figure out, so much things to build, model, so many ideas to be had, and I'm sure you're gonna change your mind more than once. So time spent is definitely another con. I would say overall, if you have a passion for Roblox game development, or let's say you're just starting it right now, guys, do not make an original game until you have funded yourself. If I started this game a year ago and I was broke the whole year, I probably would have just given up on it. However, if I start a simulator that only takes a month to develop, if it flops, it's not a big deal. If it's a huge success, it's a W, but the likelihood of that, well, it's not the highest. Anyways, excuse if this video was a little bit all over the place. It is currently 2 a.m. and I am super tired. But hey, the grind does not stop. And guys, let's get into some questions. Question number 1 is, will you add upgrades for each motorcycle? Example, better handling, better brakes, higher speeds. If so, how would you implement it? This is definitely an idea. Of course, the alpha version of the game is not going to have everything that we do end up wanting, but it definitely is something that we've talked about and do want in the game at some point in time. Will it be here when the game first launches? Well, maybe not. But it will definitely be something you can grind for and start upgrading right when that update drops. Question number 2, if your game ends up successful, what would happen to your content? Since you wouldn't really need comms anymore, nor have the time or need to work on any low poly sim stuff, etc. This is an interesting question to say the least. Most YouTubers, if they find another thing that's more successful than YouTube, they kind of just dip off and 100% pursue that new thing that's more successful. Which makes sense, it does. But also, this game will not be successful without you guys. So it doesn't make sense to like, oh, cool, I got a hit game, bye. Like, it doesn't make sense. I'll always have time for YouTube. Worst case scenario, I upload not every single day. Like, let's say I upload maybe twice a week instead of every single day. I would have more time to make the videos higher quality, more time to think of ideas, and if the game's successful, I'll have a lot more Robux to work with and making challenge videos, giveaways, and stuff like that. I hope that kind of answered your question. If the basis is, are you leaving after your game blows up? If it blows up, no, I'll be here forever, guys. At least till I'm old and gray and you guys don't watch me anymore. Our last question, will there be a spawn bike button for the dream game? Like, if we crash and our bike goes flying, can we have a spawn bike button? Yes, it'll be in the UI. I can't give away too much of the UI stuff just yet, but it will be in the UI, and there will be the ability to pick what bike you would like to spawn, and it'll spawn right in front of you. So yes, you have no worries about losing your bike and having to run all the way back to a dealership. There will be ways to spawn it in right from your stance, from where you're standing.